Alright, so today I want to take a look back at what I think is one of the most important storylines in the entire series of One Punch Man, and that is the Mad Cyborg, because this is very likely going to be Genos' endgame, considering that it was set up very early on, and it's like his main motivation as a character in the entire series. So it's very likely that once we reach the end of it, this entire storyline will come full circle. Now, in my original video on this topic, I mainly just explained who he was or what it is, as well as what his possible identities could be. Now, also, I was only going off of the information that we had at that time, and I ultimately had come to the conclusion that it probably was Genos himself and some kind of like twist of events, and I think that would be pretty cool, and I still think that that is a possibility, and I would still be down with that, but a lot of things have happened since then, and some major storylines have been revealed. So I want to take another look at this individual topic, and I kind of want to use this video as, I guess, like a devil's advocate looking at the Mad Cyborg, because I think now I have probably a better understanding of who this character is. So let's go back to his origin story. So apparently just like one day out of nowhere, he randomly decided to attack Genos' town and like destroyed everything, including like his family, and only Genos was left alive. Now, this apparently happened because he had his brain damaged during its transplantation into his cyborg body. So that's an interesting detail, and I think it's very important as well, and we'll go back to that. But also, if we go further, apparently Dr. Kuseno, the guy who created Genos, was tracking the Mad Cyborg, and that's how he came across Genos' destroyed town, and then eventually took Genos in, basically as like his surrogate son. But it's really odd that Dr. Kuseno was tracking the Mad Cyborg, because, you know, Dr. Kuseno is like a cyborg maker himself. I mean, he made Genos, and he constantly improves him and whatnot, so he's, you know, one of the best cyborg dudes in the world, I guess. So, given that he's tracking the Mad Cyborg, I think, you know, Occam's razor says that he probably created the Mad Cyborg, right? Now, this bit of info is never said. We don't really get too much on it. But, I mean, you just think, like, okay, Dr. Kuseno probably had something to do with this guy, because let's go back to the brain transplant stuff. How would Genos know this bit of information? If he doesn't know who the Mad Cyborg is, he doesn't even know what it looks like, how would he know that it had a botched brain transplant? Well, I can assume that it's because Dr. Kuseno probably told him that. And then, like, how would Dr. Kuseno know that? Well, I assume because he was doing the brain transplantation himself, meaning that Dr. Kuseno very likely created the Mad Cyborg. So why didn't he tell this to Genos? Well, I think it's pretty clear. He doesn't want Genos to hate him, because the Mad Cyborg killed his entire family and like his town and everything. So given that he created the Mad Cyborg, he would therefore kind of be responsible for Genos' life being thrown away. So let's put a pin in Dr. Kuseno, because we'll come back to him. Now let me get into who I think the Mad Cyborg is, or at least who I think the Mad Cyborg is affiliated with, and that is, of course, the organization. Yeah, I'm no shocker there. I'm sure a lot of you have already thought this, but I do think that the organization probably has something to do with them. I mean, come on, because I'll show you some other stuff. So first of all, the organization has a friggin' robot with a brain exposed in it. Now, if we go back to the whole brain transplant thing, that's pretty interesting. Now, I'm not saying that the brain robot with the little arms is the Mad Cyborg. There's no real evidence to support that other than the whole brain transplant thing, but I think that maybe like having a brain transplanted and being exposed is just commonplace in like cyborgs and stuff or whatever. I don't know, maybe it is him, maybe it's not, but I do think that the organization has something to do with it, because let's go further, because after Genos had defeated G4, he brought his parts to Dr. Kuseno. And when Dr. Kuseno sees the parts, he's like, whoa. And then all of a sudden he just stops and he's like, Genos, where in the world did you get these? And then it's just really interesting, especially in the manga, how this part plays out, because it like, Kuseno like stops and then he becomes darkened and he's like shocked by it. But then they never go any further than it, and then he just cuts away and he like changes the topic. He's like, I understand, I will try. You still have room for improvements. So it's like almost like Dr. Kuseno had seen these parts before, or at least is aware of what's going on with them. Now, them coming from the organization, you know, he probably has something to do with that, meaning that they probably are affiliated with the Mad Cyborg. But another interesting thing here is that later on in this sequence, Dr. Kuseno just randomly says, like, hey, by the way, Genos, that cyborg, the one that took your hometown from you, have you found any clues about it? So that right there, I think, is pretty telling that Dr. Kuseno, looking at G-Force parts, he probably knows that it has something to do with the Mad Cyborg, because the Mad Cyborg is probably similar in the parts that the G4 robot was made out of, coming from the organization. Now, why does Dr. Kuseno not have technology as good as G4, considering that he needed that in order to supplement Genos to make him so much better? Well, I assume that he probably is aware of what is going on with the technology. Maybe he's aware of like what it is at its base level, and then he saw how much they improved upon it. So maybe like he created the original Mad Cyborg, and it had pretty good tech on it, similar to what, you know, base Genos has. And then whatever happened with the Mad Cyborg, he eventually ran into the organization or something, or the organization found him, and then they approved him using Kuseno's own technology. I think that's how this is all tying together here. Now, another possibility is that the Mad Cyborg created the organization himself, somehow or another. Like, after going crazy, I don't know, he calmed down or something, and then, I don't know, created the organization or found other people to be a part of it, possibly, and then he started to improve his technology via research, because we know that that's what the organization is all about. They want to keep researching powerful individuals in order to gain power for themselves. But let's cut to the chase. I think the Mad Cyborg is just straight up Drive Knight. Like, I think that would be perfect if he was. Now, of course, I didn't originally think this because we didn't know Drive Knight was a friggin' major villain of the series. And I know that it's not confirmed that he is, but come on, chapter 119, if you read between the lines, it's pretty much confirming that he's like a friggin' big bad and very likely to be the Mad Cyborg. Now, why would he be the Mad Cyborg? Well, because of his odd relationship with Genos. Let's go back to after Boros was defeated, or during that time. It was like right before Boros was defeated. Drive Knight just randomly went up to Genos on his own accord. He was like, I'm leaving. Oh, wait. By the way, Genos, you know Metal Knight? Yeah, he sucks. Don't trust him. And he's like, what do you mean? You'll know in time. And at the time, you know, we didn't know what he was talking about, but it turns out that he was just trying to trick Genos into joining his side, or just at least be against Metal Knight, because that's obviously what Drive Knight's agenda is. He wants to pin all of his suspicions and all of his motives onto Metal Knight, because he says that Metal Knight's plan, or at least what he says to Second Guard, is that his plan is to keep growing his personal military force and one day take over the world. The Hero Association is nothing more than an obstacle. This is pretty much Drive Knight spilling the beans on his own plan. So when he says his own personal military force, I assume, okay, in theory, this is Drive Knight referring to the organization, meaning that he very likely is the controller of the organization, meaning that it might start with him, the Mad Cyborg, meaning that instead of Metal Knight creating the organization like what some of us thought originally, I think it might be Dr. Kuseno who accidentally invented the organization via making the Mad Cyborg and having Drive Knight go off and doing whatever he did. Now, of course, you know, going back to him meeting up with Genos, he meets Genos, oddly enough, again in chapter 119, right when he's about to take out Second Guard. Genos randomly comes to save the day, and he's obviously mad at this because, you know, Genos is ruining his plans. So I just think it's really interesting that Drive Knight and Genos keep having this recurring meetups and this relationship that really is unlikely for most of the characters, especially the S-Class heroes. So given that also Drive Knight is getting off scot-free from basically blowing off Second Guard's hand, you know, via him using G5 as a conduit, but also being it revealed that it's very likely that Drive Knight is like the perpetrator of all of this big conspiracy to take over the world using the Hero Association as an obstacle. He's going to become a bigger threat later on, especially, you know, now that he has Neon and all that stuff, meaning that he's very likely going to be Genos's end game of the series, meaning that he will be the Mad Cyborg. Don't you think that would just be perfect if it was just like Drive Knight was like, yeah, I'm the Mad Cyborg, I killed your family in your town that one day because I don't know, I malfunctioned after Dr. Guseno transplanted my brain into Drive Knight. Because also we still don't know what Drive Knight is. It's very likely that he's a cyborg, because like when he does transform into like his different versions, his head always stays the same, if you'll notice. So I think that's probably a good indicator that his brain is in that head unit that he has. Very likely. I mean, it's just a hypothesis at this point. But I think, you know, if we look at everything here, it's... likely that he's probably the Mad Cyborg, or at least affiliated with the Mad Cyborg. And I think it's almost guaranteed that the Mad Cyborgs with the organization in some way are shape given everything that has happened so far. But let me know what you think about all of this stuff in the comments. Where do you think the storyline is headed? Do you think Drive Knight is the Mad Cyborg? Do you think it's still Genos? Do you think Dr. Cusano has something to do with it? Or is Metal Knight really the villain in all of this? Let me know. And if you liked it, please give it a like. I also have a Patreon that gives you access to a weekly Q&A. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.